Welcome back to our little lecture series on sustainable investing here at Leipzig University. My name is Gregor Weiss, Professor of Finance here at Leipzig, and thanks for your continued interest in this important topic. So far, this chapter has been mostly about equities, owning shares in companies. But an enormous amount of sustainable finance actually happens in the bond market, in fixed income, and that's what Part D is about. Let me introduce the family, because the names get confused constantly. First, green bonds, ordinary bonds whose proceeds are earmarked for green projects following the green bond principles. Second, social bonds, the same idea, but the proceeds fund social projects under the social bond principles. Third, sustainability bonds, simply a combination, funding both green and social projects at once. And fourth, the clever newcomer, the sustainability-linked bond. This one is fundamentally different from the other three, and I want you to notice the distinction now. The first three are all about where the money goes, but the sustainability-linked bond ties the coupon, the interest rate, to whether the issuer hits a sustainability target. We'll come back to that difference because it matters a lot. For now, hold on to the family tree. 3 use of proceeds bonds and 1 pay-for-performance bond. Let's start with the flagship instrument, the green bond. The key thing to understand is that a green bond is financially an ordinary bond. Same issuer, same credit risk, same repayment. What makes it green is a promise that the proceeds will be spent on green projects like renewable energy or clean transport. To give that promise structure and credibility, the International Capital Market Association, the ICMA, set out the green bond principles, built on 4 core components. 1. Use of proceeds. The money must go to genuinely green projects. 2. To genuinely green projects. 2. A process for project evaluation and selection. How the issuer decides what qualifies. 3. Management of proceeds. The funds must be tracked and ring-fenced, not just poured into the general budget. And 4. Reporting. The issuer must report, ideally with external verification, on where the money went and what it achieved. Beyond the ICMA principles, there are stricter standards, the Climate Bond Standard, and, importantly, the new European Union Green Bond Standard, which requires alignment with the EU taxonomy and is supervised by ESMA, the European markets regulator. That last one is significant. It's the first serious attempt to make green bond a legally protected, verifiable label rather than a marketing term. But here's a subtle problem you should see through, because it's the green bond version of greenwashing. Money is fungible. €1 looks exactly like another. So even if a company faithfully spends the green bond proceeds on a solar farm, that may simply free up other cash to expand its coal business. The green label is attached to the project, not to the company as a whole. A coal utility can issue a perfectly legitimate green bond for a wind project, while its overall emissions keep rising. This is why serious analysts look beyond the individual bond to the issuer's whole transition strategy. Is this a genuinely greening company or a brown company buying a green halo one project at a time? The use of proceeds structure controls where this particular money goes, but not what the company does with everything else. Now to the question every issuer and investor asks, is there a financial advantage to green bonds? Why would a company issue one? 2 reasons. First, it's a credible signal, a public structured commitment to environmental action that's hard to fake once you've submitted to the reporting. And second, possibly cheaper funding through something called the greenium. The greenium is the yield discount on a green bond compared with an otherwise identical conventional bond from the same issuer. If it exists, it means green bonds are slightly more expensive for investors to buy. They accept a slightly lower yield, which is the same as saying the issuer borrows a little more cheaply. So what does the evidence say? Here's the sobering part. The greenium is small and often close to 0. Studies by Flummer in 2021 and by Karff and Mandel find at most a tiny yield advantage. The honest conclusion is that green bonds chiefly send a signal. They barely lower the cost of capital by themselves. If you were hoping green bonds would single-handedly finance the transition through cheaper money, that hope isn't really borne out. Their value is more about signaling, transparency, and discipline than about free funding. Why is the greenium so small? Come back to fungibility and to basic bond pricing. A green bond and a conventional bond from the same issuer carry the same credit risk. If the company defaults, both default together, green project or not. So a hard-nosed bond investor asks, why should I accept a lower yield for identical risk and identical repayment? The only reason is the non-pecuniary motive again. Some investors value the green label enough to give up a basis point or two. But bond markets are dominated by large, cost-focused institutions, and their appetite to sacrifice yield is limited. So the greenium that emerges is the thin sliver of demand from genuinely green-motivated buyers. And that's why it's measured in a handful of basis points rather than anything dramatic. It's the values motive showing up in fixed income, real but small. This chart drives the point home by showing how the greenium has evolved over time. Two features stand out. First, it is small. We're talking a few basis points, tiny fractions of a percent, not a dramatic discount. And second, it is time varying. It moves around, appearing in some periods and market segments and vanishing in others. That instability is itself informative. A large, stable greenium would tell us investors systematically pay up for green. A small wobbly one tells us the market treats a green bond as almost the same as a conventional bond from the same issuer, which financially it largely is. So don't build an investment thesis on harvesting the greenium. There isn't much there to harvest. But if the financial advantage is small, why has this market exploded? Because this chart shows exactly that. Why has this market exploded? Because this chart shows exactly that. Issuance and the outstanding stock of green debt have grown dramatically over the past decade across every region, according to the Climate Bonds Initiative. And that growth, despite the near-zero greenium, tells us something important about motivation. Issuers and investors are not doing this purely for a yield edge that barely exists. They're doing it for the signal, for the transparency, for the discipline the framework imposes, and increasingly because of policy support and their own net zero commitments. In other words, the green bond market is a case study in sustainable finance growing for reasons beyond narrow financial return, which is a recurring theme of this whole course. The market has voted with its feet, even without a greenium to reward it. Finally, let's look at the rest of the family, which has been innovating fast. Social bonds fund social projects, social bonds fund social projects, affordable housing, healthcare, education. And they surged dramatically during the COVID pandemic, when governments and agencies needed to raise money for health and unemployment programs. But the really interesting innovation is the sustainability-linked bond, the SLB. And I want to return to why it's structurally different. It is not a use of proceeds bond. The issuer can spend the money on anything. Instead, the coupon is tied to the issuer's own sustainability performance. Concretely, the issuer sets predefined targets, key performance indicators, or sustainability performance targets, such as cut our emissions 30% by 2030. And if they miss those targets, the coupon steps up, so they pay bondholders more. It's a financial penalty for failing to deliver. This is forward-looking and flexible. It can be used by any company, even one without discrete green projects to fund, and it rewards whole company transformation. But it has an obvious Achilles heel. It is only as ambitious as the targets chosen. A cynical issuer can set targets they were going to hit anyway, pocket the green halo, and never risk the step up. So sustainability-linked bonds are a genuinely clever idea whose real-world impact depends entirely on how demanding and how independently verified the targets are. And critics have found plenty to worry about in practice. Some sustainability-linked bonds set targets so unambitious that the issuer was almost certain to meet them anyway. Others set the step up, the extra interest for failing, so small, perhaps 0.25%, that a company might rationally choose to miss the target and just pay the modest penalty if hitting it were more expensive. And often the target date sits conveniently after the bond matures, so the penalty can never actually bite. Each of these turns a clever incentive into theatre. None of this means the instrument is worthless. A well-designed sustainability-linked bond with a stretching target, a meaningful step-up, an independent verification, genuinely puts the issuer's money where its mouth is. But it's a perfect illustration of a theme running through this whole chapter. The structure is only as good as the ambition and the scrutiny behind it. The label tells you the form. You have to read the fine print to know the substance. To recap Part D, the sustainable bond family splits into 3 use of proceeds instruments: green, social, and sustainability bonds, plus the pay-for-performance sustainability-linked bond. Green bonds are structured by the ICMA principles and now the EU Green Bond Standard, but the greenium, their funding advantage, is small and unstable, so their value lies mainly in signaling and discipline. The market has boomed anyway, and sustainability-linked bonds tie the coupon to targets, a clever design that's only as good as the targets. In the final video of Part 8, we tackle the rules meant to police all this: fund regulation and greenwashing. Hear a prominent skeptic's critique and draw the whole chapter together. See you there?